Hi guys, and welcome to Magic Cloud. My name is Thomas Hansen and I'm one of the magicians over at Aista. And this video is a little bit peculiar. In order for you to understand why, I need to provide you with some context. You see, a friend of mine asked me for a favor. And the favor was that my friend had a friend who is roughly 35, 40 years of age. He has a university degree, but he wants to change his profession and become a software developer. He has no prior software development experience whatsoever. So basically the task I was given is to teach this guy software development. He's got a sabbatical, 6 months of spare time, which he wants to fill with meaningful activities. Now, instead of teaching this guy directly, I figured, you know what, I can scale up and I can provide reusable material for all to use if you are in a similar position. So this video is the first in a series of videos where my intentions are to take a highly autonomous and motivated human being, teaching that human being software development from scratch, assuming no other prior knowledge than basic knowledge about the file system and files and computers in general. Now, if you happen to fit inside of that category, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. At which point there will be more YouTube videos in this series in the future, providing you with additional information required in order to teach yourself software development. First things first, let's open up Google Chrome and search for download Docker desktop. At which point you're brought onto this website, docker.com/product/docker-desktop. Make sure you download the correct version and then install it. I'm on a Mac, so my primary download buttons will say Mac with Apple chip or Intel chip. If you're on the Windows, you need to go here. Then go to the website called polterguy.github.io. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video showing you where I've already got Docker Desktop for the record, so I can't reinstall it again. Then scroll a little bit down, click the Getting Started button here, and then click this link here, download the docker compose.yml file. When that file is done downloading, make sure you open a terminal window. If you are on Windows, you have to hold down the Windows key and click R to get a little Run As box. Into that box, you have to type CMD and then click Enter. I'm on a Mac, so the way I'm going to do it is to hold down my Command key and click the space bar, at which point I can search for terminal and click caret return, which is going to start a terminal window for me. This is going to look different depending upon whether or not you're on Windows, Linux or Mac, but the process is exactly the same. Then type CD, it means change directory, and type downloads. If you type dir now, if you're on Windows, or ls on Mac and Linux, you will see that you have some files here. Now, just to make sure we start out in a similar fashion, I'm going to do like this, removing all files. Let me find my downloads folder here and make sure I have no existing files. And then let me re-download this docker-compose.yml file, at which point you will see in my download folder has one single file. It's called docker-compose.yml. If I now go to my terminal window, and assuming you successfully installed Docker Desktop and it has been started, which you can see probably in your status bar. On Mac it looks like this. On the Windows you will see it down here on the right corner or left corner or something. I'm not entirely sure. Then simply type docker-compose space up, and that's it. Now this is going to be very, very fast for me because I already have the so-called Docker containers or images locally on my machine, but it might take some minutes because Docker needs to download the magic images from the Docker hub. When it looks like this, at which point it should say, you know, now listening on HTTP blah blah colon 444, application started, press Ctrl Z to shut down. Then you can switch back to your browser. You can close this guy, and you can go to localhost colon, whoops, localhost colon 5555. Make sure you type the URL address exactly as is, and then click carriage return. Now, when you come here, it's going to look like this. Make sure you click the login button, choose the default backend, which is http://localhost colon 444. Type root as your password. Keep the username root, and type root as your password. Important. Then click login, at which point you're brought onto a screen resembling this. Choose MySQL here. Keep everything as is here. Type admin, admin. You have to repeat the same password twice. Admin. Then click next. This sets up a magic database for you and root user. And it might take some time. When it's done, you are going to get another screen, which I can't show you here because I already have the magic credifier, but just click next on that screen. Then when you come to this screen, type your name and your email address like this, and just click next. I'm going to choose key strength 2048 because it takes some time to generate a cryptography key pair of 4096 bits, and I don't want to wait for it. When it's done, you can click the home icon here in the top right corner, and that's it. So now we've set up Magic. What is Magic? Well, Magic is your one-stop shop for teaching yourself how to create software. When your screen looks like this, you can click the Hyper IDE menu item. And at this point in our video, we are going to do some magic, literally, which I'm not going to be explaining very much before later. However, we need to wire up the ability to serve HTML files. Why? Because I want to teach this person HTML first. In order to do that, I need an environment through which I can serve HTML files. I could have done it on the desktop and using Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or something similar like that. However, since at the end of the course we will be teaching ourselves HyperLambda, I want to keep the same IDE consistent throughout the entirety of the series of videos. Expand the modules folder by clicking this guy. Click the modules folder. Click add. Click the folder checkbox and give your new folder a name and call it tutorials. Click create. So now we've created a new folder inside of our modules folder. Click the tutorials folder, expand it if you want to. Click the add button again, and then click type into the name serve.get.hl like this. Now we're going to create a file. We're not going to create a folder, and the name of the file is going to be serve.get.hl. I will explain all of these parts later when we come down to HyperLambda. However, at the time being, we're going to start out with HTML. Why do I choose to teach software development through HTML? Well, first of all, because of my friend's friend is 35 years old. He only has 6 months. In addition, if he is anything like me, he wants to have a visual feedback initially when he's learning himself new thing. Hence, HTML is actually a very nice way to do that. Why? Because it makes it interesting, it makes it fun, and it makes it possible to actually create things from day one which are actually useful. And in addition, later down in this course, we are going to teach ourselves HyperLambda, at which point HTML will be crucial in regards to consuming our HyperLambda backend. Click the create button when you have given your file the name of serve.get.hl. The exact name is extremely crucial here. No capital letters, nothing, exactly as you see on my screen. Click create here now. Then type dot arguments, click carriage return, type tab, and type file colon string like this, and then shift tab to indent back. There is going to be a DSON article associated with this part, with this video, where you can copy and paste this particular code in. I'm not going to explain this code. Why? Because we're not going to go into Hyperlambda quite yet. Anyways, so now we can do io dot, then we can do stream open file, colon x colon at dot argument slash asterisk slash file return colon x colon minus, and then we can click the save button. So now we now have a simple file server. This is the equivalent of a waiter in the restaurant, right? What you want to have is the food, the dinner, right? However, we need a waiter to serve us the food. Well, this thing here is kind of like our waiter. At the current time, it's not really important to understand it, but think of this as a waiter. So now when we have saved this file, we can actually start serving files. If we now open a new window in our browser, if you hold down the control key and click T, tab, then you can go to the address localhost colon 444 slash magic slash modules slash tutorials slash serve question mark file equal slash readme.md, exactly like this. Then that returns null. Why did it return null? Probably because we need to URL encode a parameter or something. File, let me see, magic modules readme.md. Let's see what is going wrong here. Magic modules, we're reaching the Hyperlambda file, serve file equal. Let's create another file here inside of our tutorials. Let's create an HTML file, foo.html, or actually index.html. Let's call the file index.html and put it inside of our tutorials folder here. And then if we go back to our browser window, we can do modules slash tutorials slash index.html. Hopefully this is going to work. Let's try again. And here we go. Okay, so just use io.file.load. Yet again, there's a link in the description of this YouTube video leading you to an article from where you can copy and paste these codes. Then go into your index.html file and then remove its existing content. Now we are going to create an HTML file. HTML is an acronym. Software development is full of acronyms. We love acronyms, and HTML in particular implies Hypertext Markup Language. Implying HTML isn't as much a programming language as it is a markup language. The differences between those two will not be very clear for you until you've had some experience with both of those. However, HTML is a very visual programming or markup language, allowing us to easily create things that we see on the screen. So type exactly as I do now. Less than the angle bracket, HTML, greater than, and then you end up with code resembling this. Then inside of these two HTML elements, this is an HTML element, its name is HTML. This is where the HTML element ends. Inside of this, we're going to type head like this, head. Then we're going to type inside of that title, first tutorial, HTML tutorial. Then below where we are ending the head tag, we're going to type body. Then we're going to type slash body. Then inside of body we can type p hello world /p, then we can save the file, and then we can refresh here. And we've already created something, except unfortunately the browser doesn't recognize it as HTML, so we're going to make sure it actually does that. The way to do that is to modify our existing waiter code, serve code, by doing something like this: strings.split file, and then switch. Yet again, this is not going to make sense currently. It doesn't matter, just trust me, it will make sense after a while. Then you go back to the other browser window, you click refresh, at which point you will see hello world. Congratulations, you have now created your first HTML web page. Let's go back to Magic here, and then let's find our HTML page by choosing the drop-down list here at the top. And now if we do things like changing our P part, P implying paragraph for the record, to H1, and then we gotta change the /P to H1 too, then we can save, and then we can refresh. You're gonna see all of a sudden we have a header instead of a paragraph. And of course the parts in here you can modify as you see fit. Hello there, this is our first HTML tutorial. Save it, and you can refresh. And as you can see now, you have an instant gratification type of process, allowing you to play around with HTML as much as you see fit. Below the H1, we can do create another paragraph, call it this is paragraph. Then we can save it, then we can refresh. As you can see now, we can keep on adding elements to our page exactly as we see fit. We can create bulleted lists with list items inside, list item number 1. Now of course at this point we can just copy and paste things, 2, 3 and 4, save it, refresh. Now we've created a list item, etc, etc, etc. Now what this HTML code basically says, HTML is kind of like XML, not entirely but close enough for anybody having experience with XML actually being capable of recognizing it. You can see here we start one element, the name of the element is HTML, we end the element down here. This part here, the slash, means end the element. If it doesn't have a slash, it means start the element. So here you can see a similar structure. Starts an HTML element, its name is head, then it ends the HTML element called head at line 4. Here we're starting the element on the same line as where we are ending it. Here you can see we are starting the HTML element. Here we are ending the HTML element. Now an HTML element can typically have 3 things. It can have content. This is content, right? It can have children HTML elements. This is a child, H1 here. It's a child HTML element of body, right? Why? Because it is in between the beginning of the body HTML element and the end of the body HTML element. In addition to these 3 things, an HTML element can also have attributes. So an HTML element can have 3 things. It can have a name, it can have content, and it can have attributes. It can have 4 things. Well, 3 things actually. It can have content. Wait, let me count. It It can have content, it can have child elements, it can have attributes, whatever. An HTML element can have roughly those things. Now, an attribute is something you still haven't seen. So let us create an attribute for our h1 element here by typing space, style equal, 2 double quotes like this, color, colon, space, yellow, semicolon, save it. If we now go back here, as you notice now, the text is black. If I refresh, no big surprise, it's going to be yellow. Why? Because this is an attribute that describes this HTML element somehow. This is something we're going to look at later. It's actually a subsection of CSS, cascading style sheets. However, congratulations, you now know HTML, or at the very least the basics of HTML. And you can play around with it as you see fit, ignoring this part for the record, which is CSS, which we're going to go through in the next video. So I'm going to link a link to an article which I'm going to write at DSON, where I'm going to publish this particular code you're looking at now, and also our hyperlambda waiter code that serves content from our server. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.